My beloved child, come and be still with me. We must speak today of the name you have been calling yourself in the secret, silent places of your own heart. You have looked at the sum total of your life. You have taken a long and a painful inventory of all your actions and your inactions. And in the final tally of the ledger of your own soul, the one word that has been written there in bold, impermanent, and in undeniable letters is this failure. It is more than just a description of your past events. I know that it has become the very name you answer to. The world may not know the depth of it, but you do. And I do. You have come to believe that you are a failure. And I know that you believe you have the evidence to prove this conclusion beyond all doubt. You have a great and a sorrowful museum in your mind, a museum that you visit far too often, and it's cold. Gray halls are lined with the perfectly preserved exhibits of your greatest failures. You are the sad and lonely curator of your own shame, and you know every single exhibit by heart. Over here is the great, shattered display case of the broken relationship. You can still see the jagged edges of the harsh words you spoke, the fragments of the trust you betrayed, the ghost of a love that is now gone. And you look at this exhibit, and the label you have placed beneath it reads, "A failure at love." And in the next hall is the exhibit of your professional and financial ruin. Here stands the scale model of the business that collapsed, the monument to the mountain of debt that has overshadowed you, the empty frame where the picture of your dream career was once meant to hang. And you look at this exhibit, and the label you have written declares a failure at wisdom and at provision. And then there's the darkest and most hidden hall of all, the one you keep locked from the world. It is here that you keep the exhibits of your moral and your spiritual stumbles. Here is the secret sin you have wrestled with in the darkness. Here is the broken promise you made to me. Here is the addiction that has held you captive. And you look at this exhibit, at the undeniable evidence of your own weakness, right? And the label you have placed here screams in your soul, a spiritual failure, a hypocrite, a profound disappointment to God. This name, this identity of failure, has been a heavy and a crushing weight upon your shoulders. It has stooped your spiritual posture. It has silenced your voice of praise. It has stolen your hope for the future. For what can a failure possibly expect but more failure? But my beloved child, the name you have so painfully taken upon yourself is a false name. It is a fraudulent identity. It is a terrible and a powerful lie that has been whispered to you for years by your accuser and has been seemingly confirmed by the very real pain of your own life. But I have come to you today to stand in the midst of your sorrowful museum, to smash every glass case, to tear down every lying label, and to tell you that this is not your true identity. You have believed with all your heart that you are a failure. But I have come to you today to begin to reveal to you that you are, in fact, the very prize of a great and a glorious battle. You are not a failure. You are my victory. Before you can understand this glorious new name, we must first honor the depth of the prison this old name has kept you in. This identity of failure has produced in you a final verdict upon your own character. You have moved from the experience of failing at a task to the identity of being a failure. You have allowed the temporary results of your life to become the eternal definition of your personhood. This is the great and tragic lie that has been the very foundation of your prison. This identity has had profound and painful social consequences. It has made you hide your true self from others. It has made you terrified of trying any new thing. For a person who believes they are a failure is always afraid of failing again. It has made you compare yourself with a relentless and a self-torturing obsession to others who seem to succeed with such an effortless ease. And this comparison has produced in your soul a toxic mixture of envy, of bitterness, and of a deep and pervasive sense of your own inadequacy. It has caused you to withdraw, to isolate yourself, believing that no one could ever truly love or respect a person who has failed so deeply and so often. And this identity has led you to a devastating theological conclusion. It has led you to believe that you are unusable to me. You have thought, with a sincere but a broken heart, how could a holy and a perfect God ever use a life as messy, as broken, and as marked by failure as mine? You have looked at your own story, and you have concluded that you have been permanently and irrevocably disqualified from any significant purpose in my kingdom. You have, in effect, benched yourself for life, believing that it is what I would want, that it is what you deserve. But my child, you have been living your life as both the defendant and the prosecutor in the courtroom of your own soul. And you have, again and again, found yourself guilty. You have listened to the convincing and fact-based testimony of your past. You have listened to the condemning verdict of the world, but you have not yet heard the verdict from the one and only true judge, the one whose opinion is the only one that truly and eternally matters. And my perspective on your life is radically and gloriously different from your own. You see a long and a shameful list of your personal failures, but I see a long and a beautiful list of the very moments where my grace and my mercy were made most manifest and most glorious. You see a person who has been permanently disqualified by their mistakes, but I see a person who has been perfectly humbled, softened, and prepared to now receive its strength and a wisdom that is not their own. You see a life that is a shameful and a hopeless mess, but I see a life whose very messiness I will now use to create a beautiful, a powerful, and an irresistible testament to my redeeming and restorative power. You see a failure, but I see the glorious and priceless prize for which my own son fought and died. The name failure is a name that has been illegally and cruelly placed upon you by your enemy and by the pain of your past. It is a false identity. It is not your true name. And today, in this very moment, I am beginning the holy and the liberating work of removing this heavy, false, and sorrowful name from your soul. And to do that, you must first begin to understand your true and eternal value. You must understand why the great and cosmic war in the heavens was fought over you in the very first place. We must now speak of how you were, and you have always been, a prize worth fighting for. You now see with a painful but an honest clarity the heavy imprisoning weight of the false identity you have carried for so long. You have lived under the name failure, but a name, my child, is always a statement of value, and that false name has declared to your soul, day after day, that you are worthless. We must now, with the power of my truth, completely and utterly demolish that lie, for you have tragically misunderstood the very nature of the great spiritual battle that has raged over your life. You have believed that it was a battle about your own performance, a test that you have failed, but the battle was never about your performance. It was always a great and a cosmic battle over a priceless and an eternal treasure. It was a battle for you. I know that in your heart, you do not feel like a treasure. You feel like discarded trash. You look at the evidence of your failures, your sins, and your weaknesses, and you cannot see anything of value in yourself. In your darkest moments, you have wondered, why would God even bother with me? There's nothing here worth fighting for. You have believed the great and foundational lie of your accuser. You are an insignificant and a worthless soul, a forgotten pawn on a cosmic chessboard. But you must now ask yourself this one simple and logical question. Why has the kingdom of darkness fought so relentlessly, so viciously, and for so very long? For the territory of your heart, you must understand a great principle of warfare, both in your world and in the spiritual realm. A great and a powerful army does not wage alone, a costly and a bloody war over a barren and a worthless piece of land. No, a great army fights for the capital city. It fights for the territory that contains the gold mines and the diamond fields. It fights for the land of great strategic importance. My beloved child, the very intensity of the spiritual battle that has been waged over your life is the greatest and the most undeniable proof of your infinite and eternal value to me, and the immense and terrifying threat that your redeemed destiny poses to the kingdom of darkness. Why the darkness fought so hard for you. It is because you are a prize of unimaginable worth. Let me now show you what makes you a prize so valuable that all of heaven and all of hell have been engaged in a great and an epic war for your soul. First, the darkness has fought so hard for you because you bear my image. From the very moment that I first conceived of you in my own heart, before the foundation of the world, I lovingly and intentionally stamped you with my own divine image, deep within you, buried beneath all the mud and the mire of your sin and your failure, is the very likeness of your Creator. You are not a spiritual commoner. You are a child of the King. You carry my royal DNA in your spirit, and the enemy of your soul, your great adversary, hates you with such a passionate and a relentless fury precisely because when he looks at you, he sees a faint but an undeniable reflection of me, the one he hates most of all. His entire strategy against you has been to try and mar and to deface that divine image. He has tried to cover it with so much mud of shame and so much dust of failure that you and the world around you will completely forget that it is even there. But I have never forgotten, and he has never forgotten. You are royalty, and a great and a terrible battle is always fought over the destiny of a royal heir. Next, the darkness has fought so hard for you because you are a vessel created to contain my glory. I did not create you to be an empty and a useless vessel. I created you with the unique, the beautiful, and the glorious purpose of being a container for my own manifest presence, a living and a breathing vessel through which my own love, my own light, and my own power could be powerfully and beautifully displayed to this dark and broken world. The enemy, who has access to knew from the beginning the great and the glorious destiny of his plan. He knew the great glory that your life was meant to contain and his entire strategy from your very birth has been to try and break the vessel who has tried to convince you that you are common, a cheap, and a useless plaything, fit only for the trash heap, so that you will never discover that you belong. In fact, a precious vessel, designed to contain the very spirit of life, the battle has always been over the peace, and ultimately, the battle to pursue has been a matter of my heart. It has been a great and cosmic love story, for you are the one whom I have loved with everlasting love. You are my cherished treasure. You are, in the words of my son, the pearl of great price. Remember the parable we told. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant who is searching for fine pearls. And when he finds one pearl of a great and an immense price, he goes and he joyfully sells all that he has in order to purchase that one single pearl. My child, you are that pearl. And my son, the great king of heaven, is that merchant. And he saw you, his precious and beautiful pearl, lost in the mud and the mire of this fallen world. And he considered you to be so valuable, so priceless, so utterly worth it, that he willingly and joyfully sold all that he had, all of his heavenly glory, all of his divine rights, all of his comfort, all of his power, and even his own precious life, in order to purchase you and to make you his own. You have been measuring your own value by your own flawed performance. But in my kingdom, the value of an object is determined by the price that a buyer is willing to pay for it. And the price that was paid for your soul was an infinite price. It was the very life of the Son of God. You are not worthless. You are the one for whom the King of Heaven gave everything. And finally, the battle has been so fierce because your life is a piece of strategic spiritual territory. The enemy has wanted to use your life as a stronghold for his kingdom of darkness on this earth. He has wanted to make your life a place of bitterness, of fear, of addiction, and of hopelessness. A place that would be a bad testimony to my name. But I, from the beginning, have chosen your life to be a great and a glorious beachhead for my kingdom of light. I have chosen your life to be a place of love, of joy, of freedom, and of hope. A place that would be a powerful and an irresistible testament to my grace. The battle has been raging over your life because your soul is a piece of land that is of immense and eternal strategic importance in my great and cosmic war against the darkness. Therefore, I'm now calling you to a complete and a total change of perspective regarding all the battles you have endured. You must stop seeing the intensity of your spiritual struggle as a sign of your own weakness or of my displeasure. And you must begin with a new and a holy confidence, to see it as a profound and a divine compliment. The enemy would not have fought so hard for the territory of your heart if you were not so incredibly and so eternally valuable to me, and so incredibly and eternally dangerous to his kingdom of darkness. The very greatness of your battle has always been the undeniable sign of the greatness of your destiny. But you must know, my beloved, that this great and epic battle for you, this prize worth fighting for, was never a battle between two equal and opposite powers. It has always been a battle between a defeated and a disarmed foe, and an all-powerful, a victorious, and a loving king. And the final victory was never, for a single moment, in doubt. For the one who was fighting for you is infinitely and immeasurably greater than the one who was fighting against you. And now that you know your true and your eternal value, you must now come to understand the nature of the great and glorious champion who has fought and has won this great battle on your behalf. You now understand, my beloved child, your own profound and immeasurable worth in my eyes. You are the priceless pearl, the hidden treasure, the royal heir for whom the great and cosmic war has been waged. But I know that for your entire life, you have seen yourself as a soldier in this war, a soldier who must fight your own battles, prove your own worth, and win your own victory. And you have grown so very weary in this long and lonely fight. But I must now reveal to you a truth so glorious and so liberating that it will release you from this exhausting and impossible struggle forever. The great and decisive battle for your soul was not, and has never been, yours to fight. I know how you have experienced your life. You have felt like a soldier, constantly on the front lines of a brutal and a relentless war. You have known the terrifying sound of the enemy's approach in the night. You have felt the sharp and searing pain of his arrows of accusation and of temptation. You have known the profound exhaustion of the long and seemingly endless campaign. Your experience of battle has been real. It has been personal, and it has been incredibly costly. And in all this, you have believed that the final outcome of your life, the final victory, or the final defeat, depended entirely on your own personal performance on this battlefield. But my child, you have tragically mistaken the daily skirmishes for the great and final war. You have believed that you were alone and an unsupported soldier, fighting for your own survival in a hostile land. But in the spiritual realm, the great war for your eternal destiny was decided in a different and a far more glorious way. It was decided by a great and a single combat, a holy and a final duel between two great champions. On one side of the battlefield stood your great enemy, the ancient serpent, the prince of this dark world, the accuser of your soul. He stood there, armed with the powerful and legitimate weapons of my own holy law, and with a long and active record of all your sins. And on the other side of the battlefield stood my champion, who was also your champion. It was my own beloved Son, the perfect, the sinless, on the holy Lamb of God. And he stepped onto the battlefield to stand in your place, to fight as your representative, and to win a victory the great battle was not yours. True eternal battle was not yours. It was not yours. A true battle was a small and dusty garden called Gethsemane, and a dark and bloody hill called As he contemplated the horror of the cup he was about to drink for you, his human soul recoiled, and he sweat great drops of blood. But in that moment of ultimate testing, he won the victory over the rebellious human will, and he cried out the words that would change your destiny, not my will, but yours be done. And then, on the cross of Golgotha, he fought the great and final battle against your true enemy, sin, death, and hell itself. He stood there, not as a helpless victim, but as a mighty and a courageous warrior, your divine champion, fighting on your behalf, and your great enemy, the accuser, threw his most powerful and most deadly weapons at your champion. He threw the full and crushing weight of all your sin, every lustful thought, every angry word, every selfish act upon him. He took the full and the holy force of my own righteous and just wrath against that sin, and he focused it like a burning lens upon your champion. And finally, he used his greatest and most feared weapon of all. He threw the full and final power of death itself upon him. These were the very weapons that had successfully and inevitably defeated every other human champion in all of history. But your champion was different. He was not like any other. He took the full and infinite penalty of all your sin into his own being. And in doing so, he did not just forgive your sin, he completely disarmed it. He absorbed the full and terrible weight of my holy wrath against that sin. And in doing so, he satisfied the demands of eternal justice for you forever. And he willingly entered into the very heart of death itself, into the grave, into the enemy's own territory. And then, on the third and glorious morning, by my resurrection power, he shattered the gates of death from the inside out. He rose from the dead, having won a complete, a total, a glorious, and an eternal victory over every single enemy that has ever stood against you. My beloved child, because your champion has already fought and has already won this great and decisive battle. Your great war is over. It is finished. You have been living your life as if the final outcome is still in doubt. You have been fighting as if it all still depends on you. But the outcome has been eternally decided. The victory has been authoritatively declared. And your enemy has been utterly and completely defeated. So what? Then, are the struggles and the battles that you still face every single day? They are not the great war. The war is over. The battles you now fight are simply small, localized skirmishes. They are. In military terms, mopping up operations, you are not fighting for a victory that is in doubt. You are now from a position of absolute security, simply walking around the battlefield of your life and enforcing the great victory that your champion has already won for you. You are like a victorious soldier, walking through a conquered territory and announcing to the last, small and isolated pockets of a defeated enemy army that their king has already surrendered and that the war is over. Therefore, I am calling you now, with all the love in my heart, to lay down the heavy and impossible burden of trying to win a war that has already been won. The great pressure is off of you. You didn't have to fight for my love. It has been secured for you. You do not have to fight for your salvation. It has been won for you. You do not have to fight for your place in my kingdom. It has been given to you as a gift. All of these things, the things you have been striving and fighting so hard for have already been completely and gloriously secured for you by the victory of your great champion. Your only job now is to learn how to rest in his great victory and to learn how to live from it. You are not a weary and a desperate soldier fighting a lonely battle on a losing front. You are on the winning side of a finished and a glorious war, and you have not been left as a mere foot soldier in my army. The great victory of your champion has resulted in a great and a glorious spoil, and that spoil, my beloved child, is you. We must now speak of your new and glorious status as the very treasure that was reclaimed in this great and cosmic battle. You now stand in the glorious and liberating truth of a war that has already been won on your behalf. You understand that the great, cosmic, and decisive battle for your eternal destiny was fought not by you, but for you, by your great and divine champion, the Lamb of God. But I know, my child, that as you look back on your own life story, you still see yourself as a soldier in that war. And often, as a soldier who has failed, you have looked at your wounds, at your defeats, at your weariness, and you have concluded that you are a poor and an unsuccessful warrior. But you must now understand your true role and your true identity in this great and epic story of redemption. For a great and a victorious war always results in the claiming of the spoils. And you must now understand your new and glorious place in this narrative. For you were not just a common foot soldier in my army. You were the very prize, the very treasure, for which the entire war was fought in the first place. We must now speak of your life as the glorious and priceless spoils of that war. I know that as you look at your own life right now, you do not feel like a prize. You do not feel like a treasure. You see only the wreckage of the battlefield. You see the deep and painful scars that the conflict has left upon you. You see the mud and the blood of the long and arduous campaign. You feel like a broken and a discarded piece of equipment, a casualty of a war that has ruined you, not a treasure that has been won by it. But my beloved child, you have been looking at the cost of the battle from your own limited, ground-level perspective. I want you now to begin to see it from mine. I, your great and eternal King, from my throne in the heavens, looked out upon the fallen world, and I saw you, my priceless treasure, my cherished and irreplaceable jewel, held captive in the dark and mighty stronghold of the enemy. And I considered you to be so valuable, so precious, and so utterly worth it, that I willingly launched the greatest, the most costly, and the most dangerous rescue mission in the history of the cosmos, all for the singular purpose of getting you back. You are not the collateral damage of the war. You were the entire purpose of the war. You are not the wreckage of the battle. You are the glorious spoils of my great victory. You are the treasure I reclaimed. Let me now help you to understand this new and glorious identity. Remember the beautiful parable that my son told, the story of the merchant who was searching for fine pearls. And when he found one pearl of a great and an immense price, he went and he joyfully sold everything else that he had in order to acquire that one single pearl. My beloved child, you are that pearl. You were lost to me, hidden in the deep and murky waters of this fallen world, held in the possession of the enemy. But I, your great and loving God, have always known your true and your hidden value. And I, the great King of heaven, considered you so priceless, so beautiful, and so desirable, that I joyfully gave up everything, all the treasures of heaven, and even the very life of my own precious son, in order to purchase you back and to make you my own. Your identity is no longer the failed soldier. Your true and eternal identity is the priceless pearl for whom the king gave everything. Remember also the story that my son told of the woman who had 10 precious silver coins and then lost one of them. Did she look at her remaining 9 coins and say, "Oh well, at least I still have 9. The one that is lost is not so important"? No. She lit a lamp, she took up her broom, and she swept her entire house. She searched diligently. She searched relentlessly. She searched in every dark and dusty corner until she finally found the one coin that was lost. And when she found it, her joy was so great that she called all of her friends and all of her neighbors together, and she said, "Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost." My child, you are that lost coin. You are lost in the darkness of this world, but you were never, for a single moment, forgotten by me. I have lit the lamp of my gospel, and I have swept the corners of the entire universe to find you. I have turned everything upside down in my relentless and loving search for you. And now that you have been found, now that you are safe in my hand, I tell you that all of heaven is, at this very moment, rejoicing over you. Your identity is a cherished one who was so diligently and so lovingly sought after. Your very soul was a territory that had been illegally and cruelly occupied by the enemy. And my son came as a great and a mighty warrior king, invading this fallen world to reclaim that territory for my kingdom. The battle was fierce, it was bloody, and it cost him everything. But he was completely and gloriously victorious. And now, you are no longer occupied territory. You are a reclaimed and a liberated province of the kingdom of heaven. A great and a glorious flag of my victory has now been planted in the very soil of your heart. Your identity is the reclaimed land of the King. And now that you have been reclaimed, what is your new purpose? You are now to be my trophy of grace. You are the beautiful, the glorious, and the undeniable evidence of my great and final victory over all the powers of darkness. I will now, for the rest of your days and for all of eternity, display your beautiful and redeemed life before all the principalities and all the powers, both seen and unseen, as the ultimate and irrefutable proof of the power of my love and of the glorious success of my son's great rescue mission. Your life, with all of its beautifully mended scars, is now my most cherished and most beloved trophy. Therefore, I'm now calling you to a profound and a restful change in your identity. You must stop seeing yourself as a weary soldier who must still fight for your own survival. The great war for your soul is over. You have been won. You have been purchased. You have been reclaimed. You can now, finally, lay down your own weary weapons. You can rest. Your new and true identity is not one of frantic striving, but of being peacefully and joyfully cherished. Your job is no longer to fight for your value. Your new and glorious job is simply to rest in the infinite value that I have already placed upon you. You are mine, my beloved. You were mine by the right of my own creation, and you are now twice mine by the right of my costly redemption. You are the treasure that I have fought for. You are the treasure that I have won, and I, your great and victorious King, will now guard my own treasure with a divine, a fierce, and a jealous love. You are safe. You are valued. You are mine. And now that you know your new and glorious identity as the very victory of my own heart, I must now make the final, great, and authoritative declaration over your life. We have journeyed together, you and I, through the great and cosmic realities of your redemption. You now understand your own profound and immeasurable worth in my eyes, for you are the priceless pearl, the very treasure for which the great war was fought and won. You see now that the decisive battle was not yours to fight, but was fought and won for you by your great and divine champion, the Lamb of God. You are the glorious spoils of his great victory. The time for explanation, for metaphor, and for the reinterpreting of your past is now complete. The time has now come for the great and the final declaration, the divine and the identity-altering pronouncement that will now define your reality for the rest of your days and for all of eternity. So I want you to imagine yourself now, my beloved child. You are no longer on the old, bloody, and muddy battlefield of your personal struggles. You are no longer the weary soldier. You are no longer the lost and hidden treasure. No, you are the reclaimed and the cherished prize. And you have now been brought, with great honor and with great celebration, into the very throne room of the King of the universe. All of the angelic host is silent. The great cloud of witnesses is leaning forward from their heavenly seats with a holy and a joyful anticipation, for they are about to witness this great and this sacred moment of your final commissioning. And I, the great King, your Father, now rise from my throne of everlasting grace, and I come to you as you stand before me, and with my own hands, the very hands that bear the scars of my love for you, I gently but definitively remove from your shoulders the old, the tattered, the bloodstained, and the shame-filled identity of your past. I take from you the heavy name, failure. I take from you the sorrowful name, defeated. I take from you the painful name, broken. And I cast these false and temporary names into the consuming fire of my glory, to be utterly destroyed, to be turned to nothingness, and to be remembered against you no more, forever. And in their place, I now bestow upon you your new, your true, and your eternal identity. It is an identity that is not, in any way, based on your own flawed performance, but is based entirely and completely on my Son's perfect victory. It is an identity that is not about what you have done, but is about what he has so gloriously done for you. Hear now the word of your King, the word that now defines you for all time. You are not a failure. You are my victory. This is not a name you have to strive to become. This is not a title you must now work to earn. It is a divine and an immediate declaration of your new and your permanent spiritual status. A status that was purchased for you by the precious blood of the Lamb and was forged in you by the very fires of your own trial. You are my victory. This is the final word. This is who you are, now and forever. And you must now begin to understand the profound and glorious implications of what it means to be my victory. First, it means that you are the living and breathing proof of my triumph. A victory is not an abstract or a theoretical concept. It is a tangible and a visible result. And you, in your very being, are now the living, the breathing, and the walking proof of my Son's great and final triumph over all the powers of darkness. Your forgiven sin is the undeniable evidence that His blood was powerful enough. Your mended heart is the irrefutable proof that His love was strong enough. Your restored hope is the glorious evidence that His resurrection is real. You, my child, are the living, walking trophy of His great and eternal win, because you are my victory. Your very existence now silences your accuser. The enemy's greatest and most ancient accusation against me has always been that I am a failure. He has whispered to the universe that my creation of humanity was a tragic mistake, that my plan of redemption was not powerful enough to truly work. But your life, your beautifully restored, your gloriously redeemed, and your wonderfully transformed life is now my final and my unanswerable rebuttal to his every lie. When he now comes to accuse me, I do not have to engage him in a theological argument. I simply have to point to you. You are the living, walking, an undeniable checkmate in my great and cosmic game against him. And the very sight of you, standing in my grace and clothed in my righteousness, silences him forever, because you are my victory. Your value is now inextricably linked to my own. In the kingdoms of your world, the value of a victory, of a trophy, is a direct reflection of the greatness of the king who won it. And because you are now my victory, your worth, your honor, and your value are now and forevermore connected to my own. An attack on you is now an attack on the integrity of my own victory. A dishonor to you is a dishonor to my own name. Therefore, I will now guard you with a divine, a fierce, and a holy jealousy, not just because you are my child, but because you are the very symbol and the living proof of my own glorious triumph, and because you are my victory. You will now begin to radiate a glory that is not your own, a trophy, a beautiful golden cup, and it does not have a light of its own. It shines with a brilliant glory only because it is reflecting the light that is being shone upon it. And so it is with you. As my victory, you will now begin to radiate a beauty, a light, and a glory that is not your own. It is the glory of my Son, your great champion. People will look at your life, at your new peace, at your new wisdom, at your new love, and they will not, in the end, see. They will see a beautiful and an irresistible reflection of His goodness, His power, His grace, and His love. To be my victory means that you are now a vessel that has been perfectly created and positioned to display His glory to a dark and a watching world. This, my beloved child, is who you are. Stop now from seeing yourself through the dark and distorting lens of your own failed battles. You must now, and for the rest of your days, choose to see yourself through the glorious and liberating lens of His finished and magnificent victory. You are not a failure. You are my victory. And this new and glorious identity now gives you a new and a glorious purpose. You are no longer to be engaged in the exhausting and futile work of trying to win a victory for yourself. You are now to live in the joyful and the restful reality of being the beautiful and cherished evidence of a victory that has already been completely and eternally won. And now that you know who you truly are, we must now speak of how a victory lives, of how a trophy of my grace is to conduct itself in the house of the great King, the great, divine, and life-altering declaration has been made from the very throne room of heaven. You have been stripped of the old, tattered, and shame-filled garment of the victim, and you have been clothed in the new, the brilliant, and the royal robe of the victor. More than this, you have been told that you are not just a victor who has won a battle, but that you are my victory, the very prize and testament of my Son's great and triumphant work. This is your new and your eternal status. It is a finished, unchangeable, and glorious fact. But I know, my child, that a king who still thinks and speaks like a pauper will never truly enjoy the riches of his own kingdom. A queen who continues to see herself as a servant will never walk in the fullness of her royal authority. And so, you must now learn how to live in a way that is consistent with this new and magnificent identity. You must learn how to align your inner and your outer narrative, your thoughts, your words, and your very actions, with your new identity as my victory. We must now speak of how a victory lives. I know that this is a great and a profound challenge for you. For years, you have practiced the sad and the difficult habits of a failure. You have learned to apologize for your own existence. You have learned to hide in the shadows of your shame. You have learned to expect the worst. You have lived in a state of constant, anxious striving to prove to yourself and to the world that you are not as bad as you have so deeply feared you are. These old habits on the failure mindset are deeply and powerfully ingrained in your soul. But they are the habits of a slave, and you are a slave no longer. You are a royal heir. You have believed that to now live as a victory, you must begin to perform great and victorious acts to prove that your new title is true. But this is the old, tired logic of earning, the logic of the flesh, and you have it completely backwards. The life of a victory, the life of a cherished and a beautiful trophy, is not a life of frantic and anxious striving. It is a life of profound, of deep, and of restful confidence. A great and a golden trophy does not have to do anything at all to prove its worth. Its worth has already been eternally proven by the one who fought and won it. Its only job is to rest in its place of honor in the king's house and to beautifully and effortlessly reflect the glory of its owner. This is the great and glorious secret of your new life. This is the rest and confidence of being one. How do you live in this new and restful confidence? It is a new way of being that you will learn through the daily practice of several new and holy disciplines of the heart. First, and most gloriously, you must learn the discipline of the end of proving yourself. This is your great and final liberation. I want you to hear this with all of your being. You must, from this day forward, completely and utterly cease from all striving to prove your own worth. You no longer have to prove to me that you are good enough. You no longer have to prove to the world that you are strong enough. You no longer have to prove to your family that you are wise enough. You no longer have to prove to your church that you are spiritual enough. And you no longer have to prove to yourself that you are worthy. That great and exhausting battle is over. Your worth has been eternally and unchangeably established by the infinite price that my own Son was willing to pay for you on the cross. You are to now learn to live with the quiet, the settled, and the unshakable confidence of a person who has absolutely nothing to prove to anyone. This is not arrogance, my child. This is the deepest and most beautiful form of humility. It is the humility that rests completely in a worth that has been given, not earned. Next, you must learn the holy and the beautiful art of receiving. A person who sees themselves as a failure is always desperately trying to give, to do, and to work, in a frantic effort to try and pay back a debt of shame that they feel they owe. But a victory, a treasure, is in a constant and a restful posture of receiving. You must now learn this holy art. You must learn to receive my love, not as something you have earned, but as the very air you breathe. You must learn to receive my grace, not as a rare commodity, but as an endless river. You must learn to receive my blessings, not with a sense of guilt or of surprise, but with the joyful and simple acceptance of a beloved child. You have spent your life with your hands clenched into tight fists, trying to hold on to what little you have and trying to fight for what you do not have. But I am now calling you to learn to live with your hand held wide open, in a posture of constant and grateful reception. For I, your King, long to lavish the extravagant gifts of my kingdom upon you. And your capacity to receive these gifts is now the very measure of your worship and your love for me. From this, you will learn to live from a place of abundance. A person who believes they are a failure lives in a constant and a tormenting mindset of lack and of scarcity. But you, my victory, have now been brought into the very treasury of your King, a place of infinite and overflowing abundance. And you must now learn to think, to speak, and to act from this new and glorious reality. This means that you are now to learn to be radically generous with your time, with your love, and with your resources. Not because you have so much in yourself, but because you now know with an absolute certainty that you are connected to an infinite and an inexhaustible source. A person who believes they are a victory does not live in the fear of lack. They live in the joyful and overflowing confidence of their King's limitless supply. And you must now learn to take your seat of authority. A person who believes they are a failure sees themselves as powerless, as a victim of their own thoughts and their own emotions. But a victory is a symbol of a great and an unconquerable power. As I have told you, I have seated you with Christ in the heavenly places, and you must now learn to live your daily life from the seat of your new authority. This means that you no longer have to be a helpless victim of your own negative thoughts or your own chaotic emotions. You can, from your position of victory, speak to the fear and to the anxiety in your own soul, and you can command it, in the name of your King, to be silent. You can speak to your circumstances with the authority of a royal heir, declaring my will and my promises over them. You are not a pawn in a game that is being played by others. You are co-ruler with Christ. And you have been given a divine authority that you must now learn to wield with wisdom and with love. My beloved child, the entire and beautiful theme of your new life is rest. It is a restful confidence, for you have nothing left to prove. It is a restful receiving, for all things are now yours in me. It is a restful abundance, for you are connected to an infinite source. And it is a restful authority, for the battle has already been won. It is the great and the glorious Sabbath rest that comes from finally knowing, in your very bones, that the great battle is over, the victory has been won, and your value has been eternally and unchangeably secured. Your only work now is to rest in the great work that has already been done for you. And from this new and profound place of restful confidence, a new and a beautiful purpose will begin to flow out of you. You will find that you are no longer serving me out of a desperate and a fearful need to prove yourself. You will now begin to serve me out of a joyful, a peaceful, and overflowing gratitude for the great victory that has been won for you. And now that you know how a victory lives, we must now speak of how your very life will now, in its beautiful and restful state, declare my triumph to the world. The great and final declaration of your new identity has now been made. You are not a failure. You are my victory. You have been clothed in this new, royal, and glorious reality by the hand of your King, and you are now learning how to live from this new and settled place, how to think the thoughts and to speak the words of a victor who is resting in a battle that has already been won. But a great victory, a beautiful and a priceless trophy, is not one simply to be hidden away in a private room in the king's palace. It is meant to be displayed. It is meant to be seen. It is meant to tell a story. You must now understand the great and glorious purpose of your new identity. We must now speak of how your very life, in all its redeemed and restored beauty, will now declare my triumph to a watching world. Remember your old and your deepest fear, the fear that has haunted you for so long. It was the fear that your life, with all of its failures, all of its sins, and all of its weaknesses, was a bad testimony. It was the fear that your messy and broken story had brought dishonor to my name. You tried to hide your story, believing that your silence was the best way to protect my reputation. But now, in the glorious, upside-down economy of my kingdom, everything has been reversed. My beloved child, a story of a person who is always strong, who is always perfect, and who is always successful does not, in the end, bring me the most glory, for the world looks at that person, and it gives the glory and the credit to the person themselves. And they say, "What a great man," or "What a strong woman." But the story of a person who was a manifest and a public failure, who was weak, who was broken, who was a sinner, and who has now been miraculously, mysteriously, and gloriously transformed by an unseen and a loving power, that is the story that leaves the world speechless. That is the story that forces them to look beyond the person and to ask the question, what great and a loving God has done this? Your redeemed story of failure is now the most powerful, the most authentic, and the most effective testimony you possess. How your story glorifies my name. First, Your past failures will now declare the profound depth of my forgiveness. When I now give you the opportunity to share the story of your life, you will learn to tell it in a new and a different way. You are no longer to tell it with the old, heavy, and downcast voice of your personal shame, but neither are you to tell it with the proud and boastful voice of a self-made hero who has overcome great odds. No, you will now learn to tell your story with a quiet, a beautiful, and a profound humility, and the story will not be about you. The hero of your story will always be my grace. You will tell the story of your great failure as the before picture, and then you will point to your new life, your new peace, your new identity as the glorious after picture. And the greater the darkness and the failure of your before, the more brilliant, the more beautiful, and the more astonishing the light of your after will appear. Your past failures do not disqualify your testimony. On the contrary, they are the very thing that now magnifies the power of your testimony. They declare to a world full of other failures that there is no sin so great that my grace is not infinitely greater. Your present peace will now declare my victory over all chaos, as you now learn to walk through your daily life with the quiet, the restful, and the unshakable confidence of a victor. Your very presence will become a living and a breathing sermon in a world that is drowning in a sea of anxiety, of fear, and of turmoil. Your deep and supernatural peace will be a profound and a baffling mystery to all who see it. People will look at you, and they will see you facing the normal and expected trials of this life. But they will see you face them without the old panic, without the old striving, and without the old despair. And they will be drawn to you, and they will ask you for the secret of your peace. And you will have the great and glorious joy of telling them that your peace is not the absence of problems, but the powerful and the living presence of your victorious King, who has overcome the world and who now lives within you. Your humble confidence will now declare the nature of my love. You will no longer walk through this world with the harsh and defensive arrogance of a self-made person. And you will no longer walk with the cowering, apologetic shame of a failure. No, you will now walk with a new, a gentle, and a humble confidence. Why? This is the beautiful and the secure posture of a cherished child who is completely and utterly at rest in their Father's unconditional love. And this posture itself will be a powerful testament. It will declare to a world full of spiritual orphans that there is a good and a loving Father who is not angry, who is not demanding, and who is not disappointed in them. It will declare that there is a home for them, a place of belonging, a place of safety. Your very posture of restful sonship will be a powerful and an irresistible invitation to others to come home to me, and your newfound purpose will now declare my redemptive power. I will now begin to use you in ways you never thought possible. The very gifts that you thought were lost forever in the wreckage of your past failures, I will now resurrect. I will anoint with a new power, and I will give you a new platform to use them. And as you begin to walk in your divine purpose to minister my love to others, to create beauty from a place of wholeness, to bring my hope to the hopeless, your very fruitfulness will be the final and the undeniable proof of my triumph in your life. Your life, the very one that the enemy had declared was over and was useless, will now begin to bear more good and lasting fruit than you ever thought was possible. And all who see it will know, with a certainty, that this is my doing, and it will be marvelous in their eyes. So I am commissioning you today, my beloved child. I am commissioning you to be a storyteller. I am commissioning you to be a living, a walking, and a breathing trophy of my magnificent grace. Do not hide your scars any longer. Do not hide your past, for your story is no longer your own. It is now mine. It is one of the great and eternal love stories, one of the great and glorious victory epics that I will now use to draw my other lost and broken children home to me. Your life is now my message, and so, my beloved, my glorious victory, my beautiful trophy of my grace, our journey of revelation has now come to its end. From the dark and lonely prison of your failure, you have come to understand your own infinite value in my sight. You have seen the great and final battle that was fought and won for you by your champion. You have been stripped of your old, false name, and you have been clothed in the new and glorious identity of my victory. You have learned how a victory lives not in striving, but in rest. And now, you have been given your final and most joyful purpose, to simply live your beautiful, redeemed life as a glorious and an undeniable declaration of my triumph. I want you to see yourself now, not as the weary soldier, but in a great and a glorious victory parade. And you are not the great general on the white horse. That is my son. No, you are the cherished and the priceless treasure that is being displayed on a royal float for all the world to see. And as the crowds look at you, at the beauty of your restoration, at the undeniable evidence of my grace upon you, they will break forth in a thunderous applause. But their applause will not be for you, the trophy. It will be for the great and the loving King who is mighty enough and loving enough to win you back. Rest now in your place of honor. Rest in your victory. Rest in me. Your story is beautiful, and it will bring me glory for all of eternity.